watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture.
Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and there are very many wonderful Jewish organizations that serve different aspects of the Jewish community and Jewish life and enhance Jewish life all over the world. None is doing more important work than an organization which many of you may still be unfamiliar with. It goes by the letters FIDF, and it stands for the Friends of the IDF, the Israeli Army, the Tzahal. And it's an organization that's based in many cities across the United States. And what it does is provide support for the civilian Israeli soldiers who serve in the state of Israel and protect not only the state of Israel, but really in some way the entire Jewish world. And it also does wonderful things for these soldiers once they complete their term of service. So for example, it makes sure that soldiers who then go on to begin their lives after their service have funds to go to college, and there are scholarship funds. The FIDF also provides things like mobile gyms for bases in Israel, so that when soldiers are not in the field, they have the opportunity to spend time in leisure ways that help them. So the FIDF is one of the organizations that on the ground is helping Jews, in this instance, the young men and women who comprise the Israeli army. And it is my great pleasure to introduce you to the individual who now is leading the FIDF here in the United States. It is my pleasure to welcome General Jerry Gershon, Yitzhak Gershon, who is a major general in the Israeli army. And Jerry, how long now have you been serving here in the United States?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
You were born where?
I was born in Israel in the end of 1958. I joined the army 1977. What inspired me more than everything was Entebbe operation.
Really?
Yes.
Where were you when Entebbe took place?
I was in high school, last grade.
This was 1976.
1976.
Over the July 4th weekend. Do you remember it vividly? What do you remember most about the entire event?
What's exactly inspired me was the courage, the imagination, the creativity. Later on, I cannot say that in that moment I felt as I feel now that the IDF stands for every Jew worldwide to protect them if they are in trouble.
That was not what you felt in 76.
No, actually my dream was to be a mechanical engineer. I was about to go to the Technion in Israel, and then I planned to go to the army, but this operation changed the plans, and I asked to go to an elite unit.
Which one?
Shaked, Sayeret Shaked, reconnaissance elite unit in the southern part of Israel. I served in the Sinai Desert for 1 year, and then in the north, in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza, everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Where were you living at the time? Where was your family from?
Pardes Chana, it's a near village between Tel Aviv and Haifa.
Do you have siblings, brothers and sisters?
Of course, I have 4, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. My parents are still living in, thanks God, in Israel. All of them are in Israel. and I'm here with my family.
And where do you come in the forum?
I'm the oldest one.
You're the oldest. How would you describe your own family? As you were growing up a young boy, what was your family's orientation, number one, to Zionism and Israel in general? And also, I'd love to know something about the Jewish character of your home. But begin with the sense that there is a spectrum within the Israeli community. Where did your parents fit in? Where was your home?
I would say that the first 3 decades of the State of Israel, defined by the experience to bring many different societies, even though it's about Jews from all over the world. In that sense, we are the multicultural, maybe the multicultural society in the world. And it was a miracle, it is a miracle till these days, to find Jews from Europe, from North America, South America, Middle East, Asia, building this new state of Israel.
Where were your parents from?
My parents came from Iraq as little kids. My father was 9 years old, my mother was 6 years old. And they immediately integrated in the same village that I grew up in Pardes Chana. It was like a refugee camp, I would say. They left everything in Iraq. Their parents left all their businesses, all their real estate, everything, and they just came to Israel, to build a new future.
And do I imagine they were, at that point, partial more to Begin than labor? Did you grow up in a Likud household?
Actually, no. It was more a labor house.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. And I grew up to understand the importance of the State of Israel for Jews. And for our family, and I grew up to believe in peace and harmony, and mainly to keep and protect the Jewish tradition and Jewish values.
Your house did have a sense of Jewishness, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Till today. My father is going to a synagogue not just every weekend, but every day. And even after work, before work, and weekends, Shabbatot, we have a dinner and, a Jewish tradition family.
You know, Jerry, there are many Israeli families that don't experience what you're describing.
I know.
Does it concern you?
Yes. Yes, and not from a religious point of view. I think that, we say, or the world say, and look at the Jews, that they are so successful and they are so, flourish. And how come in 60 years we have such a wonderful state, such a miracle, and so on and so forth. I do believe that we are like any other human beings worldwide. What differentiates us and what we try to bring to the world, and not we, but our fathers, our founders, is the positive attitude about life, the value of family, the value of education. This is why Jewish worldwide are so successful. And I hope that, and I know that many in the world adopted many of these values worldwide, and we are proud of that. And we would like to see the world living in peace and harmony.
Mm-hmm. This is a digression, but let me ask you at the moment, what worries you most for Israeli society? I'm not talking about peace, I'm not talking about conflict with the Palestinians or the Arab world, but when Jerry Gershon looks at Israeli life today, what concerns you most?
I think that the global world has advantages and weaknesses. And the young generation, even though we can see the motivation to go to the army, to be in elite units, I would say that we are doing so because we have no other choice. And we prefer life rather than death. We prefer peace rather than wars. So what worried me, I would say that the young generation slowly moving from the basic traditions, the basic values, and try to be like the rest of the world, instead of being the lighthouse for the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe it is possible that there are Palestinian people, ordinary Palestinians, who would be happy to live side by side with the State of Israel?
Absolutely.
Do you know them?
Absolutely.
How do you know them?
I know them because I used to live in the Green Line most of my life. Actually, I was in Judah and Samaria during my service in the IDF in many positions. So first of all, I met the Israeli Arabs. And the Israeli Arabs, who are full citizens, I would say that most of them are willing to live in peace and harmony. They know the advantage of living under democracy, because they can see around us what does it mean to live under totalitarian regimes and so on. And I had the opportunity to meet Palestinians in Judah and Samaria. And I met ordinary people. And I can tell you that if politics and agenda by our neighbors, by our Arab neighbors, won't be so dominant, these people could live in peace and harmony with us. The problem is the leaders, because these leaders haven't accepted us yet to live with them. It's not about the ordinary people there, but those who lead these people since the establishment of the State of Israel.
Does anything at the moment give you hope that things could change on the leadership level?
No. Unfortunately...
Isn't that the real shame here, the real pain of it all?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, as I started, I said that I am a man of peace. I lived in a house where I educated not to hate anyone in the world, and not to hate our neighbors, of course. And I'm today more than ever more pessimist that the leaders of our neighboring countries really wants us to live with them in the same region. And the best example is what happened in Egypt a few weeks ago, that thousands of Egyptians raid on our embassy, trying to kill six guards who left there. And this is after 30 years of peace agreement with Egypt. So what's so-called the Arab Spring, and the fact that today Lebanon controlled by Hezbollah, Gaza Strip controlled by Hamas, the Egyptian future, we look with hope and apprehension. On one hand with hope and apprehension, on the other hand, as far as I understand, there is a very that's a huge possibility that the Muslim Brotherhood will control Egypt in the future. And I think that in Syria it's going to be the same. I'm happy that maybe the people are having the rights to vote for the government, but I'm not sure that this can lead to a better future in our region.
Another question on the Israeli scene today. In America, we are suddenly shown pictures of mass rallies. We're told the rallies are of middle-class Israelis who seem to be saying that the economic structure of the State of Israel has been oppressive, has not given them the opportunity to share in what, at the moment, the upper echelons of Israeli society are able to share in. It is reminiscent in part of what we're seeing in Europe, and now we're even seeing similar type rallies here in the United States. To what extent do you, number one, sympathize with the rallies that have been taking place in Israel? And here you're talking to a large American Jewish audience, and there are many non-Jews watching, Jerry. We don't know firsthand how to evaluate what we see, but you have a different sense. What can you tell us about what you are told and see and know about the social protests that are occurring in Israeli cities now?
I would sympathize this rally because it comes from a very a positive place where people want to live better. They want to live, to experience what the economy, what a strong economy can give them. And Israel is a very good country. But nothing is perfect, and this is the voice of the people. I would say, these people have been silenced for more than 6 decades because of the security challenges. Because we put first and foremost our right to exist there, and today, thanks God. Even though we have many security challenges, we can raise, the people can raise their voice and to have a better life in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of social welfare, and so on and so forth. In the end of the day, I would sympathize the rally on one hand, but on the other hand, Israel is a very place to live in. And I said it to one guy who haven't seen me in Israeli TV in a while. And he said, "Hey, where are you?" I said, "I'm in the United States. I'm the National Director of the Friends of the IDF." He said, "Oh, you are in America." I said, No. I am in the United States. Here it's America.
That's very good.
And believe me, Israel is like oasis. It's a real miracle. And we need to work. We need to work hard to make sure that the middle class is strong enough, because this is maybe the engine of a modern democratic society.
Incidentally, you should explain to our audience, what do you mean when he hadn't seen you recently on television?
I used to be, to appear on TV. I was the head of the IDF forces during the second Intifada in Judah and Samaria, and I led part of the defense shield operation, mainly in Ramallah and Nablus, Shechem. So I was on a daily basis on TV, and during the Second Lebanon War, I was the Israeli home front commander, and I was there, instructing the people what to do, how to do.
What do you feel when you hear the criticisms that are leveled against the Israeli army in its treatment of Palestinians on the West Bank, and when you hear Jews with good hearts, Jerry, who want to see Israel reflect the best of Jewish values, who argue that because of the occupation, some piece of the Israeli soul, the Jewish soul in Israel, has been damaged, and that inevitably there are ways in which the Israeli occupation has demeaned the Palestinians' right to be a human being themselves. When you hear criticism of Israel in general and the IDF in particular, where is it right? Where is it wrong? How do you feel?
You know, I would go back to Golda Meir and what she said to the Egyptian president Anwar Sadat. We can forgive you for killing us, but we will never forgive you for forcing us to kill your children. And this is a tragedy, a real tragedy. It's not about the ordinary people in the streets. It's about, as we said before, I would say indoctrination of the people in the streets, the hatred. When people are growing in kindergarten and celebrating a suicide belt around 3 years old kids, how can you bring peace into this region? So I'll give you an example. During my time as the head of the IDF forces, the commander of the IDF forces in the West Bank or Judah and Samaria, which I prefer, from time to time I forced to put a curfew on Palestinian cities. And it's a very hard decision for a commander to put a curfew on a city. You know that there are babies, there are mothers, there are needs, and it's not a normal life. But when you consider between a curfew, the quality of life of people in Jenin to the life themselves of people in Afula, a northern city in Israel, you have no other choice. If you know that in 1 hour there are 2 suicide bombers who are going to get out from Jenin and to get into a bus, restaurant, synagogue, hotel, killing people just because they are Jews, what can you do? You need to put a curfew to make sure they are not going so free to kill other people. It's a very sad story. We in it, and I think it's wrong to perceive that we are aggressor and so on and so forth. And I'll tell you, it's very simple. We won every campaign in the front line, in the battlefield, since the establishment of the State of Israel. But we lost the public relation arena. We haven't put enough attention to this phenomena. And 400 million Arabs succeed in bringing themselves to be the underdog, while 6 million Jews, only 6 million Jews over there on a tiny land, perceive worldwide as Goliath. So this is the story, and this is the sadness of the story in our region.
May I push you on this a little bit?
Please.
I want to tell you what we hear all the time now from Jewish activist groups who also are in touch with Jewish activist groups in Israel, B'Tselem, etc. They say that at checkpoints, what can happen, doesn't happen all the time, is that out of frustration, Israeli soldiers don't treat ordinary Palestinians in as respectful a way as we would want them to do. Israel's policy of demolishing the buildings of relatives of suicide bombers received tremendous criticism. And the whole idea of collective punishment has received criticism. And then a group like J Street says to the Jewish community here in America, Israel forces the Palestinians in a city like Hebron. They can't use certain streets, they have to go out back doors, and that you wouldn't want to live like the Palestinian has to live under Israeli occupation. And the last thing that's said, and you really didn't speak to this yet, is there are Israelis who now write all the time that the occupation has done damage to the Israeli psyche, if not the Israeli soul. And I said this to you before, we're not there. One of the things that bothers me is we must rely on other people's account, description. So I'm asking you, to what extent is there some degree of fairness to these criticisms? To what extent, Jerry, do you feel that they are way overblown?
Mm-hmm. No, I would say there is a fairness in somehow in part of this criticism. I wouldn't eliminate all of the criticism. It won't be the right thing to do, and I can tell you that the orders, the policy, the structure, how we do our operations in all over. It's not just in Judah and Samaria, but mainly with the Palestinians, is to behave as human beings, to express our tradition, our values, and our norms. And where a soldier, doesn't treat a Palestinian in a post or as good as we think he should do, we bring him to a trial. It's not an easy thing for us to see that our soldiers behaving, but these incidents are results of the whole environment that we are living in. I can tell you that in the beginning, after 1967, after Six-Day War, there wasn't many, posts, obstacles, no security fence. People can come to Israel to benefit from Israel, to work in Israel, and so on and so forth. And something happened there. Something happened there where just take the second Intifada. It wasn't Intifada. It was a well-organized terror campaign where thousands Israelis have been killed by suicide bombers. So I think part of this criticism is right. We need to take it in consideration, but it's not a policy. It's not something. It's not the leaders that instruct the soldiers to behave like criminals and so on. This is not our way, and we're sorry about every innocent who have been killed, injured, and so on and so forth. But this is a war zone. Unfortunately, we haven't chosen this place to be a war zone. One more thing, I don't think, personally, even though I grow in a labor house, even though I served in the army for 32 years, I don't think that we are occupiers. Judah and Samaria is our historic land by the Bible. It's our historic land. We are ready to compromise. We are ready to live in peace and harmony with the 2 million Palestinians who are living there. This is a fact. We have nothing to do with the fact. But we need to understand that the other side is really accepted us to live side by side in peace and harmony.
You do support the two-state solution?
It's very.
You understand the fact that you use the phrase Judea-Samaria. For us in America, it tends to be a code word for those Jews who are against giving up biblical Eretz Yisrael and who have a harder time with the notion of making territorial compromise where sovereignty over the land would be given over to the Palestinians. So I'll ask it better. What is your view of the two-state solution?
We need to understand and recognize, and this is something that all the politicians in Israel accepted, that the fact is that there are 2 million Palestinians, plus minus 2 million Palestinians living in this piece of land. I was very in favor of the two-state solution till the Arab Spring. I think that today it's very dangerous to leave the West Bank or Judah and Samaria and to give it just like that to fall into the extremists in the Islam world, like Hamas in the Gaza Strip. This is very dangerous for the future of the state of Israel.
Okay, but it sounds like your opposition to the two-state solution is not ideological. It tends to be more tactical, strategic, and military.
It's both. I would say both. You need to understand that this is what I said in the beginning. They haven't accepted us yet in this region.
But you were for the two-state solution, you said.
No, I think we need to find a solution where the Palestinians can live their life, where we can minimize our presence in the way they are, exercising their life there.
What about sovereignty?
They have, they can have like autonomy or something like that. I wouldn't give any piece of land these days, where I don't know what will be the future of the Middle East as in general.
I asked you earlier, do you have any hope about the leadership of the Palestinian world today? And you said, no, you're not optimistic. But if tomorrow there suddenly was within the Palestinian community a leader whom you believed really did want to live side by side with the state of Israel in peace, and he said, we will change the way television portrays the state of Israel. We will change the textbooks. We will change the rhetoric in the mosque world. We will change every attitude possible and really commit to living with Israel in peace. If that ever happened, would you then, in theory, be willing to see a Palestinian sovereign state on some part of the West Bank?
I would say that enough with words. I don't believe words in this region anymore. We have a bad experience in terms of withdraw from land. We completely withdraw from Lebanon. We got the Hezbollah there. We completely withdraw from Gaza. Under a democratic election, we got the Hamas. And this is something that they need to start yesterday to change the education system, to change the rhetoric, to change the way they want to build their sovereign life. We need to see that on the ground. We need to see one generation raising up as normal kids, like in the rest of the world, like in Holland, in Switzerland, and in Germany. When we see that on the ground, we maybe can move to the next step.
And what is your suggestion in the meantime? Because that's not going to happen tomorrow. And I'm also pessimistic. But what is your suggestion for what we do in the meantime?
It's not really popular in Israel today to say what I'm saying to you.
No, you're very courageous, Jerry.
It's the first time that I'm putting my
good for
real,
you. I'm very, very impressed.
But I wouldn't afraid to go back to what Menachem Begin offered the Palestinians. Autonomy, you name it, it doesn't matter. You can put any definition. They can live their life. We need to control this land, this part of land, in terms of operational activity, intelligence. We need to be invisible as much as we can so they can really live their life there. But we need to make sure that we are not growing a monster you know, as our neighbors. There are a very good people there, the ordinary people there. I can make a peace tomorrow morning, but this is not about the ordinary people. This is about the leadership, the doctrine. This is why they kept the refugee camps over the 60 years or more than 30, 40 years. They kept these refugee camps just because they want to keep this problem so they can deal with Israel and one day to eliminate Israel from the map. And this is something we cannot give them. This is the only land that we have, and we need to do whatever we need to do to keep this tiny homeland.
Jerry, do you hate Palestinians?
Not at all. Not at all.
I want to tell you, I have had the privilege of speaking with many of the soldiers of the IDF, especially who come through this office, the FIDF office. I've asked this question time and time again. I am struck by the passion of the answer, no, I do not hate. I believe that Israeli soldiers and Israeli civilians, and I ask them all the time, with rare exceptions, all of them do not hate. And if there were one message that I would want to communicate to those who watch Shalom TV, is the extent to which Israel is in a situation where sometimes it must deal with Arabs and Palestinians in difficult ways, but that in their heart, the Israelis want what you're expressing to me, the ability to live in peace, and what they don't want to do is belittle, be mean, in some way overlook the integrity of the other person. And it has been one of the most important things I have experienced in my personal contact with young Israelis and older Israelis, that we are a people who wish that we could live in peace and we don't hate. Do you feel I am describing it accurately?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So I want you also to take a moment. What's it been like for you personally to be the national director of the Friends of the IDF here in this country? What has thrilled you about it, and what do you wish more American Jews understood about FIDF?
I would say that...
Was it hard for you to accept this position?
Absolutely.
I would imagine.
It was hard.
Yes.
It was hard. And
Because?
my first answer was no.
Yes, because?
Because I don't like, to schnorr. Everybody sees this as a schnorrer, but I'm sure that it's
and you
more
spent your whole career in the field.
in the field, in the front line,
Yes.
but you know what? What convinced me was a Holocaust survivor. I gave a speech, and in the end of the event, he asked to see me. It was my last time with uniform. And he was taller than me, white hair, blue eyes. And he all of a sudden hugged me and then said, "You don't know what is it for me to hug an Israeli general." I was a kid in the middle of the street in Poland, asked where our help will come from. Thanks God we have today the IDF and the State of Israel. At that moment, I realized that there is a vision behind the mission. The mission statement is very pure, and it should stay like that, to deal and to help and support the well-being of the Israeli soldiers. But the vision is to be a bridge between Jews and non-Jews and the State of Israel through the support of the soldiers. We are non-political, non-religious, non-military organization. We are dealing with education, we are dealing with well-being, and we are dealing with recreational and infrastructure. And in that regard, I think these days, more than ever, where the criticism, most of the criticism is unfair, unright, we need to bring the voice that support Israel and understand that these kids who are in the front line, not just protecting the Israeli, the Jewish homeland, but they are the last line between extremism, dictatorship, totalitarian regimes, and the rest of the world. And I would say that Israel today is an asset even to our neighbors, because we are the only stable element, state, country in the Middle East. We are the example for these millions of Arabs who tried or trying very hard to get rid of dictators and try to live their life like any other human beings worldwide. So in that regard, Israel is an asset. And I see Israel as an asset in many, many other aspects, but it's not the time to explore it.
Have you been pleased with the American reaction to FIDF?
Oh, very, very. Jews and non-Jews. We have a close relations with Christian United for Israel, with the IFCJ, with Israel, Friends of Israel. In the Christian community, we have very, very good response from Jewish communities nationwide, and in Panama, in South America, we're really, really Jews. I feel it every day that people understand the importance of this tiny homeland for the Jewish people. And, you know, as this guy, the Holocaust survivor, told me, thanks God, we have today the IDF and the State of Israel, and we need to do whatever we can to support the State of Israel and to stand behind these brave men and women.
You are Yotzei min haklal. You are out of this world. I am so glad we have had a chance to talk together.
Thank you.
I love everything about you. I love your mind. I love your heart. And obviously your years of service have been extraordinary to the State of Israel and the Jewish people. But I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha in all your work here at the FIDF. You know I'm a huge, huge fan.
I know.
And supporter, and I've had both personally and professionally wonderful experiences with the FIDF. You have a tremendous support staff working under you. And I only hope you go from strength to strength. As I've watched, by the way, over the past 5 years, this organization has done extraordinary work. But your leadership is invaluable. And although I can imagine there are many reasons why it would have been hard for you to leave Israel and to come to the United States and be the head of an organization that schnoors, what it really does is it raises money to do good for human beings, our children, the children of our people who are, as you say, helping to protect the State of Israel and the Jewish people. And you're doing an extraordinary job. I hope this is only the first of many times I can come and talk to you.
Thank you.
You're an extraordinary human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Jerry.
much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And that was my meeting with Major General Yitzhak Gershon, who is now the National Director of the FIDF, the Friends of the IDF. And I hope you enjoyed meeting him as much as I did. And I hope you will become involved in one of the organizations on the Jewish scene that is really doing extraordinary work. If you'd like to be in touch with the FIDF, you can visit their website at www.fidf.org. You can also call their national office in New York at 212-244-3118. As always, I'd love to hear from you, hear your reactions to some of the things that Jerry had to say. If you'd like to be in touch with me, or if you'd like to be in touch with Major General Gershon, you can do so by emailing me, write me, tweet me, post on our Facebook wall. I look forward to hearing from you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who can send a tax-deductible contribution of $36 or more to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media to help support our programming. Tax-deductible checks may be made out to GEM and mailed to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. Please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD, and we thank you for your kind support.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish Education in Media.